i.e. shoplift, breaking into cars, burgling houses.
To supply your addiction?
Yeah, whatever it was, I didn't care what it was, what I had to do to get money. I sank to the animalistic level of pure desperation, you know, the fear of hearing the critical voice in my head, the fear of withdrawal, the fear of facing reality, because I knew that I just couldn't go on, and I knew if I kept going on I was going to lose my life, and I didn't want to be a stat like that.
Right, what's your name?
James.
How old are you?
41.
And where are you from?
Originally I'm from Nottingham.
Okay, and speak to us about your upbringing, James. How was life like in Nottingham?
My upbringing, I'd say, was one of poverty, one of little bit of misery and chaos. Wasn't great. My dad was an alcoholic. He was always taking the money, going in the pub, just drinking. So my mum never really had money for food or anything like that. So never really knew where next meal was coming from or when it was coming or anything like that.
Do you think that influenced you to become an addict, your father's behaviour, or do you think that was completely independent?
50-50, you know. It didn't help matters, definitely, but growing up and seeing my dad being an alcoholic and a criminal and being in and out of jail himself definitely allowed me to view that as the right way to live, you know.
He's your role model, isn't he? If you see that as good behaviour.
I seen that as normal, you know. So yeah, definitely.
Talk to us about, did you get into trouble or what was that like?
Yeah, I was classed as a problematic child.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's a child in need, but when I was at school, growing up, I was a very problematic child. I couldn't really read, write or spell. I got frustrated easily, and with my dad's drinking, I got taken to school in like hand-me-down clothes that was all ripped and patched up, and so I was an easy target for kids. And you know, my problem, my way of dealing with that was retaliating, and I started fighting back and getting into lots of trouble, hell of a lot of trouble, both physically and verbally, just doing what I could to survive, really.
And when did drugs start coming into the equation then?
I tried my first chemical substance when I was 10 years old, cannabis, ash back then. But that's when I first picked up a chemical substance.
And how did that progress? Did you like it straight away or?
Yeah, more or less. As soon as I picked it up, all the noise in my head shut down because I had this very chaotic mind because of my upbringing. Didn't have the luxuries of knowing how to feel or how to deal with my emotions. So, and with me being criticised and everything like that, my head was just very, very busy, very, very noisy. When I first had my cannabis joint, all that noise just stopped, literally stopped. So naturally, straight away, I kept on reaching out for the cannabis because I never wanted that noise to come back. I never wanted to hear that critical inner voice that you know so many people have and so many people do hear.
So it started. Would you say your addiction started at 10 years old then?
Well, my addiction to chemical substance started at 10 years old. However, my addiction started way before then. Because I had other addictive behaviours, 6, 7 years old, shoplifting, 8 years old, fighting, and then 9, 10 years old, becoming addicted to porn and masturbation, really. But my addiction to chemicals was 10 years, yeah.
And how long would you say you were how long would you say you were an addict for?
Active addict for 28 years, from the age of 10 till I was 38.
Wow. So talk us through then your early years of addiction. What were they looking at? Like your late teens, early 20s?
Well, I picked up cannabis and then I progressed quite quickly through the drugs really. Started sniffing gas at 11, drinking at 12. I was hanging around with a load of older kids, so I was getting in trouble with the law by this time and put in police cells. And it was when I was 15 that I picked up heroin for the first time. 17 when I picked up crack cocaine for the first time, and 19 when I picked up the needle for the first time. So really, more my teens was chaotic and just
Trying to find that next high.
Yeah, very just lost, and just always wanting the next buzz, the next thrill, the next. If I got high, I wanted to be higher. No matter how high I got, I just never wanted to face reality. I never wanted to come down. I just wanted to stay in the air.
And what was your poison and what was your drug of choice if you had them all laid out in front of you?
My drug of choice is always going to be heroin and crack cocaine. I'd say more heroin, but I do love a snowball, or did love a snowball.
For people that don't know what a snowball is.
Snowball is heroin and crack cocaine mixed together in a needle. You're having a hit.
Because heroin's a downer, isn't it? And crack cocaine's a
stimulant, an upper. So I used to have one of them, but I used to have more than one. But that was my drug of choice, my method of choice.
Talk to us about the height of your addiction. We'll say obviously it was 28 years. We'll say your 20s.
Yeah.
What was a normal day looking like for you then from start to finish?
A normal day for me is I'd wake up around about probably 6 o'clock in the morning, rattling, by the time...
What does rattling mean for people?
I was withdrawing because obviously the drugs that I had had the night before was wearing off.
Yeah.
So I was like physically dependent on Class A drugs. So.
Yeah.
And if you don't use them, you go into a physical withdrawal.
Cold rattle.
Yeah, cold rattle, yeah. So I'd wake up at 6 in the morning. By 6:15, I was on my way to do a graft, commit a crime. I.e. shoplift, breaking into cars, burgling houses.
To supply your addiction.
Yeah, whatever it was, I didn't care what it was, what I had to do to get money. I sank to the animalistic level of pure desperation, and I was going to go to any lengths to get money to score my drugs, and that started probably as early as 6:15 in the morning. By 7, half 7 at the latest, I've scored my first dose of drugs. And from that moment, it was just constantly in and out all day, committing one crime or another, and just getting as much money as I can to feed my habit. And that would go probably until 10 o'clock at night, where I'd pass out, and then I'd wake up the following morning and the same thing would happen.
Yeah,
it was just a repeat. Just a daily repeat, a daily cycle.
Yeah, that's why people call it a cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just chasing the money for drugs.
That was it, I was just chasing money for drugs, I can't even say I was chasing the next high, because in the end, I just wasn't getting high. The drugs wasn't doing what they once did, but I couldn't stop either, because obviously I'd go into the physical withdrawal.
Not only that, you'd hear them voices again.
Yeah, and that was where my fear was, the fear of hearing the critical voice in my head, the fear of withdrawal, the fear of facing reality. I just wasn't. I was just too caught up in my own self to be ready to look at any of that.
Talk to us about the lowest point in your addiction. Then where was rock bottom? in the 28 years of madness?
I've probably had a few rock bottoms that's brought me to a place of pure desperation. But my last one was my worst one. It was 3 years ago. I was sat in a room on my own, and I was contemplating ending my own life because I couldn't see a way out. I had tried so many times being in and out of jail, in and out of treatment centres up and down the country, and I had always slipped back into the life. And 3 years ago, I just contemplated suicide, and it wasn't the fact that I was contemplating it. I was actually like planning it on what I was going to do, where I was going to do it, how I was going to do it, when I was going to do it, and that became an everyday thing for me where I wasn't just thinking about using drugs, I was thinking about ending my own life, like I say, I was in a desperate state. I couldn't find any veins in my arms, my legs, or anywhere else. And I got to the point where, I was getting the barrels of needles, and I was shoving the barrels up my arse and squirting drugs up my arse, just to get them inside me because I didn't know how else to do it. And I was that desperate to get drugs in my body. That's how I was doing it, and I was sat there crying because I couldn't find a vein. I was sat there crying because of the depths I was going to, the desperation I was going to get drugs in my body. I was crying because I just didn't want to live that life no more, and I couldn't see a way out. And there was just a whole heap of things going on in my head. I was filled up with guilt, shame, remorse, embarrassment. I was living in squalor. I was living in utter despair. And it was a pain that I had never felt before. I was lonely, isolated, alone. No one wanted to know me. Not even other addicts wanted to hang around with me. And I just come to that point where, I had this desire just to do something about it, and for me, that's when it counted, because all the other times I tried for family and friends and partners and kids and whatever it was, but that time scared me, and luckily I'm grateful that it did, because that's what gave me the kick up the arse that was needed, really.
So that leads me on to my next question then. When did you find recovery? What, from that rock bottom, or?
Yeah, but it was about 2 months after that. I started making phone calls to come back into treatment there and then, because I knew that I just couldn't go on, and I knew if I kept going on I was going to lose my life, and I didn't want to be a stat like that. So I started making the phone calls there and then, but it took a couple of months because I had an ongoing court case for an assault charge that needed to be dealt with before the treatment centre would take me back.
Yeah.
Because they thought I was coming just to get out of the charge, which they had every right to think like that, some people do. And I had to accept that, and I had to just sit there and, just try and be patient as I could and minimise the drug use. But it gave me time to minimise and reduce my drugs, and it also gave me time to reduce my methadone and come off that as well, so it made it that little bit easier to transition into a life of complete abstinence when I got into treatment.
So is recovery as good as people say? Is it good or is it bad?
No, it's better than what people say. When I came into recovery, I sat there and thought, I'm never going to be able to have fun again. Am I going to be able to have fun without the use of drugs? But you know what? I've had more laughs, bigger laughs, better laughs, and more memorable good times in recovery than what I have out there. When I came into recovery, if I gave a list of what I wanted, I would have sold myself short. you know, because I've got more than I could ever ask for, more than I could ever dream of. You know, and if I said, when I came into recovery, if I said, this is what I want, you know, I'd have definitely sold myself very, very short, because I've got more than that. I've got more than enough. I've got everything I need, and that's plenty good enough for me.
Okay. Second to last question. You can flex this. How long have you been sober now?
37 months, 1,125 days.
And then 30 how many months did you say?
37.
37. Have you had more fun in the 28 years of addiction or 37 months?
Listen, over the last 3 years, 37 months or whatever, I have had way more fun over them 3 years than what I did in 28 years of active addiction and the 10 years of life before that, really. I've been able to travel abroad and have some great laughs, you know what I mean? I've been able to sit with recovering addicts and have some amazing laughs, you know, and
help other people through the steps.
Yeah, literally, which is a gift in itself. Being able to, you know, for me, being able to help someone freely. That was a new concept to me a couple of years ago, because the only time I would help someone is if there was something in it for me. Now I do that, and I do it freely. You know, and there's no better gift. There really isn't. You know, it's an amazing feeling.
Last question. Someone was sat in despair now, like you were, who was watching this video. What would you say to them?
Seek help. Seek help. Make the phone call. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
You know, don't sit on your own. Don't isolate. You haven't got to be on your own any longer than what you need to be. You know, there is a way out. You know, you've just got to find the courage and you know, be brave enough to take that first step. It's not as hard as what you think it is. We make it up in our own head that it's going to be harder than what it actually is, but you know, it's quite simple. You know, just seek help, find a fellowship, find a recovery centre, go to your local drug services, and you know, just tell them, you know, just be honest with them, just be honest.
Thank you.